Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the practical session of lesson number 2. Of course, in lesson number 2, our main area of focus was definiteness. We're going to see in the practical session how that knowledge can be used to start forming sentences and phrases in the Arabic language. Not only that, inshallah, translate some selected text from Quran. A lot to do in this session. I'm going to go a bit slow so that you can, inshallah ta'ala, take time to carry out the tasks that I'm going to set for you. Each and every task has been designed really to reinforce the learning and then build a solid foundation. So when we go to lesson number 3, we can use the knowledge of gender also and start forming sentences and phrases. So this practical session will be a little bit longer than the normal, as we're going to be introducing certain rules, which we will not need to repeat in other lessons also. Let's begin by reminding ourselves of the golden rules of learning. I listen, I forget. I see, I remember. I practice, I learn, I teach, I master. It is only at the level of practice that you will learn. In the introductory session, we went through some points regarding definiteness. I'm sure after an hour, overwhelming majority of the people would have forgotten what they heard in the video or saw on the screen. The only time you'll remember that information is when you begin to practice it. And this is why we've introduced this session so that we can practice with you. Now, in a normal environment, in a classroom, the teacher's responsibility would be that he would give the students some task, go through the subject, and then he will test. They will carry out. The students will ask questions, and then he will be able to clarify what the confusions are in their mind. Unfortunately, through an online video system, we don't have that luxury. So what we're going to be doing here is giving you practical lessons. I'm going to ask you to pause the video, carry out the task, and you can check your answers with what we have given. So at least you're aware that you're learning something new. Now, if you don't actually participate in the practice lesson, you're not going to learn. So the only point I want to try and emphasize to you again and again, I listen, I forget, I see, I remember, I practice, I learn. And make the intention, inshallah ta'ala, to teach the subject that you're learning, and soon you'll become master of it. So please follow these golden steps in learning. By all means, listen to the videos. By all means, see the videos. By all means, make some notes. But above all, practice, practice, practice. These are the key things we are going to achieve in this practical session. Number 1, an easy one, we're going to convert an indefinite noun to a definite. I've already shown you how to do that in the main lesson. Then we're going to look at the Muslim table. Again, we introduced that in the previous session. We're going to now convert the Muslim table into definite. In the previous session, we looked at an indefinite Muslimun. We're going to put al in front of the whole 18 words, inshallah ta'ala. Number 3, we're going to start forming nominal sentences. Nominal sentences, remember, if you said in the introductory session, is the one that begins with an ism, and we will complete also descriptive phrases and the rules related to them. Then we will look at the simple verbal sentence that we learned previously. For example, Ja'a Muslimun. If you remember those 3 sentences, we're going to put al instead of Muslimun. We're going to say al-Muslimu, and we see how that works in the sentence structure. And of course, most important is we will translate some selected text from Quran using the knowledge of sentence and descriptive phrases and translating them correctly from Arabic to English with the help of vocabulary. So this is what we will be doing, inshallah ta'ala, quite a bit of it. I'm going to, inshallah, put a quiz up for you also, which will be a PDF, and you may be able to download it soon from our website once that's ready, and you'll be able to carry out the quiz, and we'll put the model answers also for you. Again, the main purpose behind it, you practice, 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 because if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. Task number 1, converting indefinite to definite. In order to learn simply how to convert an indefinite to definite using al, what I'd like you to do is take these series of words which I've given you here, and their translation is on the right hand side. If you're interested, simply add al to them and make them definite. Get a notebook in which you'll write both the indefinite version and the definite version on a table next to it. Please carry out the task. Pause the video, complete the task before continuing. Let's go through the answers. The first word we have on the right hand side is mu'minun, which means a male believer. I need to add al in front of it. So I put al, and then I will not be able to change anything in the word, if you recall, except for the fact that tanween will disappear. Now I'll be left with al-mu'minu. Al-mu'minu. Next, second word I have is kafirin, which means a disbeliever. Again, masculine word. So we will put al. Kafiri. Again, the tanween disappears. We're left with a single vowel sign, which we went through before. Mu'minatan means a female Muslim. So you put al in front of that word. We have al-mu'minata. Then we have the word salihatun. Now, this word means pious, meaning pious persons, female, plural. So we want to put al in front. Everything remains intact. Only thing we do is the last letter has tanween, so it will take a single vowel sign corresponding to the tanween that we have. The next one we have salihuna. Now that means pious, masculine, plural. So we put al in front of that one. We are left with as-salihuna. Again, you'll note there is no other changes made to this word. Why? Because originally it does not have tanween. So please note, very simple rule for adding al. You add al and the corresponding, if it has a tanween, the tanween is changed to the corresponding single vowel. If it does not have a tanween, no other change made. So it goes from a believer to the believer, a disbeliever, the disbeliever, a female believer to the female believer, etc. Very simple rule. If you practice it, inshallah, you'll never forget it. But very important, you need to do this right throughout this lesson. So please make sure that you learn how to do this properly. We'll continue, inshallah ta'ala, with the other exercises. This table was introduced to you when we looked at the 4 properties of an ism. And it's basically by the word Muslim, and we're adding some suffixes to it to make duals, plurals, masculine, feminine, etc. And I said that if you learn this table with all the words in it very well, you'll end up with a situation where you don't need to learn a lot of vocabulary. You'll get one word, you can make 18 words out of it. So buy one, get 18 free, or learn one, get 18 free. So you can do that with many words like mu'min and many words from the Quran as well as the hadith. So very, very important practice for you to do. Now this table is completely a list of indefinite, i.e. could be any. So what we need to do is add al to all of these words and see what the outcome will be. Now please pause the video. I hope you made that template sheet that I asked you about. Print it out and write 2 versions, one which will be indefinite and the other will be indefinite. You will see how amazing this exercise is, what the benefits are of doing so. Please note, as a hint for you, it is only when there is tanween, there will be change. If there is no tanween, there is no change to the word. Pause the video, complete the task before continuing. I hope you paused the video and carried out the exercise. Please note, these are the places where there is tanween. Therefore, the changes will only occur here. All the others, the ending will be exactly the same. This is a very important exercise, so I hope you've carried it out. Let's go through each one, inshallah ta'ala, in detail. So Muslimun will become al-Muslimu. Musliman will become al-Muslima. Muslimin will become al-Muslimi. Muslimani, al-Muslimani. Again, note there is no change. Muslimaini will become al-Muslimaini. And again, the same case, al-Muslimaini. Muslimuna will become al-Muslimuna. Muslimina will become al-Muslimina. Muslimina, al-Muslimina. Muslimatun, al-Muslimatu. Muslimatan, al-Muslimata. Muslimatin, al-Muslimati. Muslimatani, al-Muslimatani. Muslimataini, al-Muslimataini. Al-Muslimataini. Muslimatun, al-Muslimatu. Muslimatin, al-Muslimati. Muslimatin, al-Muslimati. So these are 18 words, which you'll see them in both forms in the Quran quite frequently. Many words of that pattern you will see in the Quran. So if you learn these ones well, along with the ones you've learned to the indefinite table, inshallah ta'ala, you'll get buy one, 36 free, because you learn 18 which are indefinite and 18 which are definite. So please make a note of these. Try to write them out a couple of times. This will help you memorize them for long, and you'll be able to start recognizing these words and the patterns as we go through the lessons. The best way to practice the knowledge we've acquired on definiteness and also i'rab is to really put it to practice. And we're going to use some sentences to do that. The first set of sentences we're going to look at are called Jumlatul Ismiya, the nominal sentence. And I'm sure you recall from the introductory session, by nominal sentence we mean a sentence that begins with an ism. In English, the definition of a sentence is that a set of words that is complete in meaning. And it has two parts. It has a subject and a predicate. So most important thing to remember about a sentence, it is complete in meaning and it has a subject and predicate. So a sentence equals a set of words that is complete and has two parts, subject and predicate. Let's look at three sentences in English to identify the subject and predicate. The first sentence we have is Hamid is a teacher. The second, he is wise. And the third, the student is pious. Now, in all these three sentences, the meaning is complete. Second thing is that they all have two parts. They have a subject and predicate. So what do we mean by subject? Subject is usually the point that you introduce in your conversation. So for example, here in the first one, I'm talking about Hamid. So Hamid is now the subject. I've introduced the subject Hamid, and I'm going to tell you some information about Hamid. And the information I'm going to give you that Hamid is a teacher, that is your predicate. So it's quite an easy division. Hamid, subject, is a teacher is your predicate. In the second example, I'm mentioning he. I'm going to tell you something about him. He is wise. So the word he is my subject, is wise is my predicate. In the third example, I have the student. That's my subject. And the predicate for that sentence is pious. So in Arabic, we also have exactly the same thing when it comes to Jumla Ismiya. There are only two types of sentences in Arabic. We know one that begins with an ismun called Jumla Ismiya. The other one that begins with a fa'lun called Jumla Fi'liya. Jumla Ismiya is very simple. In Arabic, its structure is almost identical to the English sentence structures we looked at before. So here we have Hamid is a teacher. So I'm introducing the subject Hamid, and the predicate I'm telling you about Hamid is a teacher. To say that in Arabic, it is so simple. All you need is the two isms, Hamidun Muallimun. Hamidun Muallimun, which means Hamid is a teacher. Please take a closer look at these two words. Of course, from what you already know, Hamidun is an ism. Why? Because it's got tanween. Only an ism can take tanween. So Hamidun Muallimun, Hamid is a teacher. Of the first part, Hamidun, and then we have Muallimun. To take a closer look at both parts, the first part is called the subject. The second part is called the predicate. So we have now subject and predicate, exactly the same as we had in the English examples. Subject in Arabic is called mubtada, and the predicate is called khabar. Mubtada, khabar. Mubtada literally means something beginning with or initiating, and khabar means news. So you start something, like for example, you say Hamid, and the information you give about Hamid is the khabar. We have two parts, Hamidun, Muallimun, and again, the four properties we've been going on and on about right from the beginning is the most important part of forming the sentence. So please pay attention to this part. The mubtada needs to be definite and in the rafa status. And don't worry about the other properties. We'll look at them in the forthcoming lessons. The khabar, on the other hand, needs to be indefinite and also in the rafa status. I hope you can see that very easily, because remember, I asked you to recall from the main lesson, there are three categories of definiteness that I wanted you to remember. One was a proper noun, number two was a pronoun, number three was a common noun made definite by al. So here Hamidun is a proper noun, so it is definite. The dun tells you it is in the rafa status. Why? Muslimun, Musliman, Muslimin. Muslimun is rafa, so Hamidun is rafa. Muallimun could be any teacher. It doesn't have an al, so it is indefinite. Muallimun is in the rafa status. So that's the basic structure, is all you need to remember to form a sentence in Arabic. Two parts. If you're going to form a sentence only with two words in Arabic, which you can do, you have now Hamidun, Muallimun, the English translation of which is Hamid is a teacher. So it's a game of understanding the four properties of an ism and putting them together in the right order forms a sentence in Arabic. So we have the example now. Let's take a closer look at the four properties of forming sentences in Arabic. The basic rule in Arabic is that the mubtada has to be definite and the khabar has to be indefinite. Mubtada needs to be in the rafa status and the khabar has to be in the rafa status, which is exactly what we have here when we say Hamidun, Muallimun, and then we have the four properties. Let's take a look in close detail. So I'rab, recall, both of them have to be in rafa. Definiteness, the subject is definite and the predicate is indefinite. As far as the gender and number is concerned, they will match. So if the subject is masculine, the predicate will be masculine. If the subject is singular, the predicate will be singular, i.e. the number will also match. So definite, indefinite, matching the gender, matching the number, and the i'rab will be rafa, rafa. So this is Hamidun, Muallimun. Hamid is a teacher. There is no word in the Arabic language for is, or are. Please note that there is no equivalent word for is, or are. You will place them in between the subject and the predicate. A word like even a is not used in the Arabic language. So you have to understand how these two words come together to form the sentence, know the four properties, and you've got all the things that you need to understand the rules related to forming a sentence. So the knowledge of i'rab and the knowledge of definiteness is all you need to form a sentence. If you recall from our previous session, we mentioned i'rab, and all I asked you to remember was Muslimun rafa, Musliman nasab, Muslimin jar. And the three example sentences I gave you: Ja'a Muslimun, Ra'aytu Musliman, Sallamtu ala Muslimin. Muslimun rafa, Musliman nasab, Muslimin. And in the examples we mentioned it is the doer is always rafa. Now you have two more to add to that list. The subject is also rafa and the predicate is also in the rafa status. Don't worry about the other two. We're going to cover them in detail, but let's start building a solid foundation from where we are. So we have the subject and the predicate here. Of course, in the example of nasab, we have the object, and the example of jar, we have after word like ala. The second part of knowledge you need to start building sentences is the knowledge of definiteness. And all I want you to do is from the 7, remember 3. The proper noun, the pronoun, and a indefinite noun made definite by using al, which is equivalent to the the. Baytun, a house. Al-baytu, the house. Kitabun, a book. Al-kitabu, the book. If you remember these 3, inshallah, you can put them in your subject. The subject needs to be definite and the subject needs to be in the rafa status. The predicate is indefinite in the rafa status. That's all you need, those 2 pieces of information. Al-ismul alam, the proper noun. Let's look at some examples. Allah, proper noun. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, proper noun. Nuh alayhi salam, proper noun. Another just a proper name. Hamid, a proper noun. The name of something specific, and it could be a name of a place, person, or a thing, is a proper noun. The pronouns, I've only asked you to remember 3. Huwa, he. Anta, you. Ana, I. We'll learn all of them, inshallah, lesson number 4. And then we have common nouns made definite by the use of al. And I showed you also how to do that. You have Muslimun in the rafa status. Al-Muslimu when it's definite. Musliman, Al-Muslima. Muslimin, Al-Muslimi. Again, you can very clearly see common indefinite noun made definite by the use of al. We will have to do this skill in particular to start forming sentences. So we're going to use these 3 categories to start forming some sentences in Arabic, knowing the rules I've told you earlier. Let us form 3 sentences using the 3 types of definites we've learned earlier. The first sentence we have is Hamid is a scholar. Last one we did an example, Hamid is a teacher. Now we're going to use the word scholar. So we know how to spell Hamid already from the previous examples we've given. So that is Hamid. Now remember what it needs to be. It needs to be definite. Of course, proper noun is definite, but it needs to be in the rafa status. So it'll be Hamidun. Hamidun. And what's the word for scholar? We've got it in the vocabulary list on your left-hand side. Ali. Mim, okay, alim. But what status needs to be? It needs to be in the rafa status. It will be alimun. Hamidun, alimun. Hamid is a scholar. Please note the predicate is indefinite in the rafa status. Then now we want to form a sentence using pronoun. So the pronoun we have is he. Of course, that is huwa. Huwa means he. And what we want to say about him is that he is wise. The word for wise is hakim. And it needs to be in the rafa status, hakimun. If you recall, when I went through the examples of pronouns I mentioned, the pronouns this set are always definite and in the rafa status. Now we have the student is pious. The word for student is talib. Third example, the student is pious. The word for student is talib, talib, but it needs to be definite. So I have to convert this. So I have to put al in front. Okay? And because this is a Shamsi letter, we'll have at-talib. And it will be in the rafa, at-talibu, at-talibu. What we're saying about the student? Pious. The word for pious is salih. And it will be salihun. So again, you can see how easy it is to form sentences in Arabic. I don't have to worry about is, am, or are. Simply the two parts, but making sure that their definiteness is correct and making sure that their i'rab, the status is correct. And we can start forming these sentences now in Arabic. I want to mention a very important point early on, because this is very common in the Quran, and our purpose is Quranic Arabic, not just modern standard Arabic. We have an example here, Allahu alimun hakimun. Now this, if you look at it closely, the word Allah, of course, will translate as Allah. Alimun is all knowing. So what we have is in the first two words, using the first two words, we have our sentence. We have Allah, which is going to be the subject, and then we have alimun, which is the predicate. But please note, just like in English, we can have more than one predicate, more than one khabar in a sentence in Arabic, and it's quite common. So Allahu alimun, Allah is all knowing, hakimun, all wise. Allah is all knowing, all wise. So you can see more than one khabar in this sentence example. So please note that you can have more than one khabar, but only one subject, mubtada, but you can have more than one predicate. All the rules you need to form sentences in Arabic, jumla ismiya, are relatively simple. Once you practice 2-3 times, inshallah ta'ala, you'll remember them. Rules are very simple. You have two parts. The first part must be an ism, which should be definite, and it should be in the rafa status. So we got that with hamidun as your example. That is your mubtada, that is your subject. The second part, of course, it can be many things, but in this example is very simple, one word only. Muallimun is a teacher, and muallimun needs to be indefinite and in the rafa status. And that's all you need to remember, that the i'rab of both parts will be rafa, and the definiteness of the subject will be definite, and the definiteness of the predicate will be indefinite. And in between, you'll put in is, am, or are, depending what are the requirements of the English language. And that's all you need to form sentences in Arabic. Please note, as the example I've given you, you can have more than one khabar, predicate, but you can only have one subject. In general, those are the basic rules for forming sentences in Arabic. Now let us look at how to form descriptive phrases. Note the difference between sentence and phrase. Both are meaningful. Sentence, the meaning is complete. Phrase, the meaning is partially complete, not a full complete meaning. And that's the difference between phrase and sentence. Let us begin with the two examples we looked at in the introductory session. We have here in the first example on the right hand side, a beautiful mosque. And the other example we have is a beautiful old mosque. So these are your English descriptive phrases. So very important, I'm describing mosque in the first example, beautiful. Mosque, beautiful. So I'm using the word beautiful to describe the mosque, and that's a descriptive phrase. In the second one, I'm using two descriptions instead of one. I'm saying beautiful old mosque. Two descriptions, beautiful and old. In Arabic, to say a beautiful mosque, all I need is the two words, masjidun jamilun. That tells me a beautiful mosque. It's a descriptive phrase. So the first part of that is the noun being described. Now in Arabic grammar, this is called mausuf, and the description is, or adjective, if there's another word for it, is called sifa. And then we have other words for that, also naat and so on. We'll learn them later. For now, just call them noun being described and description. So the masjid is being described and the description is beautiful. And this is a very, very important point. Remember the difference between Arabic and English. In English, you will note that the word noun being described, mosque, comes at the end. So the word mosque is coming at the end. In Arabic, I'm beginning with mosque. So I'm saying masjidun jamilun. In English, I'm saying a beautiful mosque. In Arabic, I'm saying mosque beautiful. Please note that that's the most important difference between English and Arabic as far as descriptive phrases are concerned. So in the second example, it will be highlighting even more for us. The noun being described is masjidun again, and the description number one, it is qadimun, old, and jamilun, beautiful. So I have two descriptions. Again, the mosque is coming first. So in English, I'm saying a beautiful old mosque. In Arabic, I'm saying mosque, old, beautiful. In that order. So very, very important. The noun being described, which is double underlined, in English always comes at the end. In Arabic, it always comes at the beginning. That's the most important difference between English and Arabic descriptive phrases. The second point about descriptive phrases highlights one more time the importance of learning the four properties. So when we have the noun being described and we have our description, we have here the noun being described and our description. So we have the mausuf and we have our sifa. Of course, in the previous example, we've noted we can have more than one sifa. So again, the mausuf, the noun being described, what happens to the four properties? And this is very, very important point. Please recall. The i'rab will match. So this one is masjidun, so it is in the rafa status. Jamilun is also in the rafa status. Masjidun is indefinite because it has no al, and this is also indefinite because it has no al. So you can see the i'rab match and the definiteness also match. So it's not one being definite, the other indefinite. Both need to match, need to be the same. Whatever it is, it will copy. And the gender and the number should also match. So the four properties matching each other, it is at that moment we have a descriptive phrase. So again, note, when it comes to descriptive phrase, in Arabic, the noun being described will come up first, and the descriptions will follow, one or more, but they will copy all the four properties of the noun being described. An example you see here, masjidun, jamilun. And of course, you can have more than one description, but only one noun being described. Using the basic rules mentioned earlier, let us now start forming some of our descriptive phrases. The first one we have in English is a wise student. Of course, it is easy for you to recognize now that a student is the one that is being described here. So that is a noun being described. So in Arabic, it will come first. In English, it will be at the end as it is there. Talib. Okay, talibun. And I want to say that wise. So the description for talibun is wise. The word for wise is hakim. And it will copy the i'rab and definiteness of the word talib. Talib is indefinite. Hakim is indefinite. Talib is in the rafa status. Hakim is also in the rafa status. The second one we need to form is the wise student. Now here we note the student again is the noun being described, but it needs to be the student because the wise student is what we are saying. So at-talibu. At-talibu. And what about him? With wise. Now in Arabic, the word for wise is hakim, but because it is a descriptive phrase, it must copy the definiteness. So it needs to be al-hakimu. You can see because the noun being described as definite, the description must also be definite. It must follow in all the four properties as we've done in this example. It's following in the definiteness and in the rafa. Now we have here a wise, noble teacher. This one's a bit more complicated. We have the description of a teacher, so we need to put the word teacher first. I've changed the word to teacher just to give you more example. So the word for teacher is muallimun. Muallimun. So you can see it's indefinite in the rafa status. Now I need to give two descriptions for it, wise and noble. So let's choose the word wise first. Hakimun. Noble. So I have now a noble, wise teacher. Please note, in Arabic and English, it is the order, and also in Arabic, all the four properties are copied. I want to say the wise, noble teacher. So it'll be exactly the same, but this time with al in front. So we have now Al-Muallimul Hakimul Karimu, the wise, noble teacher. Look carefully, the last one, the student is wise. Here it is not a descriptive phrase anymore. It is going back to the sentence we looked at earlier. So how would you make a sentence? Look, very easy. At-talibu hakimun. Again, you can very easily identify this word is definite because it got al in front. This word is indefinite because it does not have al. And this one is in the rafa status and this one is in the rafa status. So you can see talibun hakimun, at-talibul hakimu, and at-talibu hakimun. This is a sentence. Let me highlight that. And the other two are descriptive phrases. And in English, you have to translate correctly. So please pay attention to the four properties and you'll be able to recognize the descriptive phrase and also the sentence if you pay attention to the four properties. And in the descriptive phrase, of course, all the four properties match. And in the sentence, you can see the example we have, at-talibu hakimun, the student is wise. By now, alhamdulillah, I've got some examples on how to form the nominal sentence as well as the descriptive phrase. And you've also been able to notice the difference between them. I'm going to do one more example just to cement in that knowledge, inshallah. Please do follow the practice and try to write them out yourself. And this will help you, inshallah, recall how to form the nominal sentence, how to form the descriptive phrase. On top of that, inshallah, how to tell the difference between them. I've used two words, waladun, a boy, hakimun, wise. And we made three different structures. First one, al-waladu hakimun. Second one, waladun hakimun. Third one, al-waladul hakimu. Now, by now, I'm sure you probably already recognize the difference between the three. The first one is, the boy is wise. Sentence, I hope you can agree. The second one, a wise boy. Third one, the wise boy. And all the differences is all based upon the four properties. In the first one, I'm sure you've already instantly recognized that this word is definite and this word is indefinite. And this word is rafa because of, remember, muslimun al-muslimu. Hakimun is also rafa because muslimun is rafa and 85% of the isms in Arabic, they match with that change. Now, in the second example, we have a wise boy, and I hope you can easily recognize the word boy here is indefinite in the rafa status, and hakim is also indefinite in the rafa, and therefore all the four properties match. Therefore, it's a descriptive phrase. In the third one, we have al-waladu. Again, that's easy, I hope, to recognize it is definite in the rafa. This is definite in the rafa. So all the four properties match. It is a descriptive phrase. Number one, there is no match. The definiteness and indefinite is very clearly identified, and therefore, the fact that it's also rafa and rafa, it clearly tells us that this is a sentence. So the first one is your jumla ismiya, and the second one and the third one is your murakkab tawsifi. Please note that very important distinction between the two, because the Quranic text you'll soon be able to translate, provided you can remember those few basic points. Alhamdulillah, let's now dive into the deep end. I'm going to ask you to do some sentences of your own and descriptive phrases. I'm not going to tell you. I want you to look at the English and work out whether it is a sentence or not, and then do the Arabic translation. Please observe the 8 English structures on your left-hand side. Some of them are sentences, some of them are phrases. I would like you to translate using the vocabulary on the left-hand side into Arabic. Please use your own notebook to complete the task. Pause the video, complete the task before continuing. Let's do the first one. We have Allah is forgiving and merciful. I'm sure you know how to spell the word Allah, Allahu, and forgiving is Ghafurun. This is a sentence which means Allah is forgiving, but I want to also mention Rahim afterwards. That will be your second predicate. Rahimun. Again, they're both in the rafa status, as you can see. Also, the word Allah is also in the rafa status. Nuh alayhi salam is a prophet. So Nuh. Now the word Nuh needs to be in the rafa status. Nuhun. It is a proper noun, so it's definite and in the rafa status. Nabi. Nuhun Nabiyun. Nuh alayhi salam is a prophet. I am a student. The word I is a pronoun and it is definite and also in the rafa status, so that's easy. And I want to say ana. So ana is I. I'm a student is talib. Li and needs to be in the rafa status. Ana talibun. I am a student. Now look at this one, the wise Quran. I hope you say that that is not a sentence. So I want to say the wise Quran. What the noun I'm describing is the Quran. So the Quran needs to be al. So al. Next we have the wise Quran. I hope it's easy for you to identify. The Quran is the word that is being described. So that will come first. Al-Qur'anu, and the one of the descriptions of it is wise. So it'll be al because it is also needs to copy all the four properties. Al-Qur'anu al-Hakimu, that is the wise Quran. Now I want to say the Quran is truth. I hope you recognize that as a sentence. So I will start with al-Quran, which is the Quran. Al-Qur'anu, it needs to be in the rafa status. So I've taken a common noun, converted to definite by using al, and the information I want to give you, it is haqqun. Al-Qur'anu haqqun, the Quran is truth. A wise Quran, a wise Quran. So the word, again, the word Quran is the noun that is being described. Qur'anun hakimun, a wise Quran. Qur'anun hakimun. Next, the student is truthful. The word for student is talib. So the student will be at-talib. At-talibu. And the word for truthful is it will be sadiqun because it needs to be in the rafa status. Okay, now we have the last example, the wise, truthful student. The wise, truthful student. So how do you translate that? Now that is a phrase I hope you recognize, and we are describing the student, so that will come first. At-talibu, and we get two pieces of information now. First, that it is wise and also truthful. So al-hakimu, as-sadiqu. So you can see the last one is a descriptive phrase. I hope by now, inshallah ta'ala, you can see the difference and how easy it is in Arabic to form descriptive phrases and also sentences. And hopefully, inshallah, some of the fear of Arabic is going. Of course, in your mind, you may come up with hundreds of questions. It is only when you start doing the exercises that actually that knowledge will sink in. All I'm trying to do is get you to practice the definiteness and the practice the i'rab. Muslimun, Musliman, Muslimin. Of course, we've been primarily dealing with rafa. We will do some examples with nasab and jar shortly. We've been practicing i'rab using some simple sentences which we've looked at in the previous session. Let's look at them and start introducing the descriptive phrase within them and see how the i'rab works. So with the three sentences are Ja'a Muslimun. Muslimun, why? Because it is in the rafa status. Why? Because it is the doer. Ra'aytu Musliman, I saw a Muslim. It is in the nasab status. Why? Because it is the object. And then we have Sallamtu ala Muslimin. It is in the jar status. Why? Because it is after a word like ala. So we're going to use these three sentences to do some more practice, inshallah ta'ala. So instead of saying a Muslim came, I want to say the Muslim came. Of course, you by now know the Muslim is al-Muslim. How do you use them in the three examples? A Muslim came will be Ja'a Muslimun, Ra'aytu Musliman, Sallamtu ala Muslimin. I hope this is easy. One is rafa, the other is nasab, the other is third is jar. Now we want to say instead of a Muslim came, I want to say the Muslim came. So it's very simple process. Instead of saying Muslimun, I will say al-Muslimu. Ja al-Muslimu, the Muslim came. Ra'aytul muslima, I saw the Muslim. And the third example, Sallamtu ala al-muslimi, I gave salam to the Muslim. So please note, definite or indefinite, you can see the i'rab, how they change. Muslimun, musliman, muslimin, al-muslimu, al-muslima, al-muslimi. Using the three sentence example, the classical three sentences, Ja'a muslimun, a Muslim came. Ra'aytu musliman, I saw a Muslim. Sallamtu ala muslimin, I gave salam to a Muslim. Instead, I want to say a teacher came. The word for teacher is muallim. How do I say that in Arabic? So, of course, it needs to be in the rafa status. Ja'a muallimun. I want to say I saw a teacher. It will be ra'aytu mualliman. I gave salam to teacher. Sallamtu ala. Sallamtu ala muallimin. I gave salam to a teacher. Now, instead of saying a teacher came, if I wanted to say the teacher came, all I need to do is put the word after ja'a, and it'll be ja'al muallimu. I saw the teacher will be ra'aytul muallima. I saw the teacher. I gave salam to a teacher will be ra'aytu ala. I give salam to a teacher would be sallamtu ala. Sallamtu ala al-muallimi. Very easy. I hope, inshallah ta'ala, you've seen the few examples there, how the i'rab is used in Arabic language. Again, more examples will come later, but please try to get these in. Rewrite the sentences again. Just have an idea of Muslimun, Musliman, and Muslimin. Few more examples. Let's make it a little bit more complex than what we've been doing so far. Now, instead of saying, so now let's make it a little bit more complex. Instead of just saying a Muslim came, let's make our sentences a bit more complex. Instead of saying a Muslim came, I want to say a wise man came. I saw a wise man. I gave salam to a wise man. The word for man in Arabic is rajul. If I wanted to say only that a man came, I would say ja'a rajulun. Ja'a rajulun. But if I want to say wise man came, now I need to put a description for the man after the word man. So I will say, we have ja'a rajulun hakimun. I hope you can see that the description is following all the properties of the noun being described. Here in this sentence, I want to say, I saw a wise man. If I wanted to say, I saw a man, I will say, rajulan. I saw a man. But if I want to say, I saw a wise man, I'll put the description after man. So, rajulan hakiman. You can see that, I hope, very easy. All I've done is copied the four properties of the word man, in this case, which is in the nasab status. Sallamtu ala, I gave salam to a man, would be sallamtu ala rajulin. But I gave salam to a wise man will be, again, I'm copying all the four properties of man, and again, you end up with rajulin hakimin. Very easy. I hope you can see how simple it is in Arabic. Now, again, instead of saying a man, the wise man, it'll be I hope that is easy for you to see now. We're using definite. In the second one, we have now, I saw the wise man. So I'll copy and paste to save a bit of time. So I saw the wise man would be Ar-Rajula Al-Hakima. You can see how easy it is now. They're both in the nasab status. I gave salam to the wise man would be Ar-Rajulil Hakimi. I gave salam to the wise man. Now here I've got more than one description. The noble wise man. How do I do that in Arabic? So I'll have to have Ar-Rajulu. Noble, use the word Kareem. Let's do the wise word first. You can see Ar-Rajulul Hakimul Kareemu. All the description, whether it's 2, 3, 4, doesn't matter. They will all copy the description or the 4 properties of the noun being described. I want to say, I saw the noble wise man. To save time, I'll copy and paste for you. Ar-Rajula Al-Hakima Al-Karima. I hope this is easy, inshallah ta'ala. You can see the 2 descriptions copying the 4 properties of the noun being described. I want to now say, I gave salam to the noble wise man. Copy and paste to save time. So, salamtu ala ar-rajuli al-hakimi al-karimi. You can all see the 4 properties of the noun being described being copied by every description that follows. So you can see now the description doesn't have to be in Rafa. It could be Nasab or Jar, and we need a reason for it to be Nasab and Jar. Rafa is your default position, and that's how you form sentences. That's how you use descriptive phrases in various forms. In the Quran, you will find all 3. Rafa, Nasab and Jar. You'll find definite, indefinite versions. You need to recognize them, inshallah ta'ala. And in the next session, you're going to start translating selected text from Quran. Please do take a copy of this. This will help you practice the Arab. This will help you practice the descriptive phrase, as well as notice the endings, which are very, very important for you. Again, example given out for you in the Rafa, the Nasab and the Jar version. Please take a copy of this. Most important, do rewrite it by hand. And that's the way it will stick, inshallah ta'ala. Alhamdulillah, all the praises and thanks are due to Allah. You're now ready to start translating selected text from Quran. Please look at the text I have placed in front of you on the screen. I've given you the ayah references where I've taken them from. Using the vocabulary on this side, please try to translate into English from the text that you have in front of you. Please note whether the text includes a sentence or a descriptive phrase. And please look at the 4 properties as much as you can, in particular definiteness and Arab, and try to translate correctly the following text. Pause the video, complete the task before continuing. I hope and pray that you actually attempted to translate the text. The first example we have is Ana Nadhirun. Now, Ana, I hope you remember, is I. Nadhir, you have the translation of that in the vocabulary list. I am a warner. I hope you can see that very easy. And as I mentioned before, there is no word for is, am, or are in the Arabic language. And we've fulfilled all the condition of the sentence. Ana is definite. And in the Rafa status, Nadhirun is indefinite as in the Rafa status. Next one I've clearly marked out in red so you don't miss it. You have now 2 words coming together, and they cannot be a sentence because both of them are definite, and both of them I hope you recognize are in the Jar status. So the properties match. So this is a descriptive phrase. Al-Kitabi al-Mubini. Al-Kitab al-Mubin. Now, of course, you can translate the kitab as book. I hope you knew that. Mubin is clear. So it will be, the translation will be the clear book. So it is a descriptive phrase, not a sentence. The next one we have Kitabun Mubinun. Kitab means book. I hope you knew that already. Mubin means clear. So it'll be a clear book. Again, a descriptive phrase. Now we have in the next example, Rizqan Kariman. Rizq means provision, and Kareem means noble. So we have now here 2 words which forms a descriptive phrase. So the translation in English will be a noble provision. Rajulun mu'minun. Rajulun mu'minun. So we have a Descriptive phrase, again, very easy. The properties are all matching. So a believing, probably be better translation, a believing man. Allahu Ghafurun Rahimun. I hope you can easily recognize what that is from the examples I've already done a couple of times for you. So the translation will be Allah is all forgiving, all merciful. Okay, brothers and sisters, please take a closer look at the translation. I hope and pray that you've done the exercise. Even if you made mistakes, don't worry. This very early stage, we are only on lesson number 2. You've now translated some selected text from Quran. Again, many more examples could have been given. Inshallah, I will try to upload a quiz for you to complete on our website, from which you'll get more examples where you can practice. And the more you practice, this is the quickest way of learning vocabulary. If you just learn a list of words, you will not remember them. But if you actually translate them from Arabic to English, use them in forming sentences and descriptive phrases, that's when you start remembering vocabulary the easy way. That's all for the practical session of lesson number 2. I hope and pray that you've done some of the exercises with me and you found them beneficial. The more you practice, inshallah ta'ala, the easier Arabic will become. For now, I just want to thank you for taking part. May Allah reward you and bless you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant all of us tawfiq to understand more and more of the Quran and live according to its message. I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.